What happens in your brain when someone you care about passes away and you're grieving their loss? There's a flood of changes that happen in your brain and in your body that eventually lead to neuroadaptations in your brain. Dr. Niadi here, neuroscientist, Yale professor, mental health advocate, and host of the Addy Hour podcast. Now, early on in the grieving process, you actually see spikes of oxytocin within the brain. Oxytocin is a molecule that's really important for how we form social bonds in families and with people that we're close to. At the same time, when we experience a loss, our brain continues to release oxytocin almost as if to say it's still expecting to see that person, even though we know that they're gone. Now, losing people in life is part of the process of life, but it's still hard, it's still stressful, and it can still be painful. And so you also see increases in the release of the stress hormone cortisol. That cortisol can act in the brain, can actually activate areas like the amygdala, which is really important for our emotions, and it's one of the many reasons that we have so many different emotional responses, again, when we lose someone that's really close to us. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex is less active, and the prefrontal cortex is really important for regulating our emotions. So again, with those things in place, we have that heightened emotional response that comes from the understandable changes that happen when we lose someone who's really significant and important in our lives. My word of advice is to not run away from those emotions, to let them run their course. It's part of the normal grieving process. And over time, your brain learns and adapts to what life looks like without that person. Eventually, those oxytocin levels come back to normal. Eventually, your amygdala activity quiets a little bit, your prefrontal cortex activity increases, and you can regulate your emotions more readily. At the same time, that's not to say that that pain will ever completely go away. You'll still have moments where you can feel sadness for that person being gone, or feel a sense of grief, even as I'm experiencing in my own life, having lost a few folks recently. At the same time, if you know some of the intense grief lasting for long periods of time, 6 months or more, you might be experiencing prolonged grief. And at that point, if you haven't already, it's really good to reach out to a mental health professional, whether that be a social worker, a counselor, a therapist, a psychologist, and to really engage and have them work with you to walk through that process. And again, don't do this in isolation. Even if you're talking to a mental health professional, make sure that you walk through the grief in community, because we work together better in communities and it makes it easier for us to heal and to be able to process through that grief.